What is the biggest challenge SaaS companies are facing right now?
I think the biggest challenge is it's crowded, right? Markets are super crowded. So when I led marketing at Help Scout, we were help desk software. And so we're competing with 300 other help desk software companies, right? In B2B SaaS, all going after the same buyers. The three big things I always have companies focusing on first is like, who are we going after? Do we have a full understanding of, okay, we have this software, but like specifically, who are we going after? And it can't be everyone. Who's the primary person we're trying to sell to? What's the industry? What's the vertical? And then I think understanding how are you positioning your product to be different, because there are so many options out there. Like you said, everyone's willing to spend money on things they think can add value. So how do you actually talk about the product? How do you actually talk about what differentiates you versus the other 299 people in the space?
And now the man you've been waiting for, John, the sales machine, Rankins.
Ladies and gentlemen, today's guest is the founder at GrowthUnion.co, a marketing agency that works with growing B2B startups to help them scale faster. He is a former senior marketing executive who previously led marketing at Help Scout and growth at G2, named one of the fastest growing private companies in America by Inc. 500 and Deloitte. Please welcome Adam Goyette.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this, especially because, truth be told, I've been running a business for more than 30 years in Southeast Asia. And, I've consulted people globally, but really 30 years in Philippines, Indonesia, Singapore, South Korea, work with guys in Malaysia, Taiwan, and Thailand. And that's my primary focus now. And my primary team is here, even though the sales machine is my new venture. It is a startup, Adam. So perfect timing for you to jump on the podcast, because I'm not a new guy, but I'm new on this block, if you know what I mean. I've made probably every mistake as far as building a SaaS is concerned. I jumped into this thing to solve my own problem, and I'm 2 million in 5 years later, and just got my first client though in January. It's great timing that you came on now, because even though I've ran a business for 30 years, brick and mortar building and scaling sales teams with systems throughout Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, Taiwan, South Korea. I literally work with people in Thailand and Malaysia. I speak Bahasa Indonesian, and I started my own SaaS company to actually service them, but $2 million and 5 years later. But in January, we signed our first client outside our organization. So this is going to be good.
All right, let's get into it. What do you need help with on the marketing side?
Well, I want to know, what are your frameworks, and tell me, what do you think the biggest challenge is for startups right now, especially in the environment? I don't subscribe to this there's limited money out there thing. I think that's bullshit. There's always money, as long as you've got, an irresistible offer, whether it's for investors or partnerships. There's always money out there. But why don't you speak to that? What is the biggest challenge SaaS companies are facing right now?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is it's crowded, right? Markets are super crowded. So when I led marketing at Help Scout, we were help desk software. And so we're competing with 300 other help desk software companies, right? In B2B SaaS, all going after the same buyers, all these sorts of things. And so I think that the three big things I always have companies focusing on first is like, who are we going after? Do we have a full understanding of, okay, we have this software, but like specifically, who are we going after? And it can't be everyone. So, I think starting with like, who's the primary person we're trying to sell to? What's the industry? What's the vertical? And then I think understanding how are you positioning your product to be different, right? Because there are so many options out there. Like you said, everyone's willing to spend money on things they think can add value. So how do you actually talk about the product? How do you actually talk about what differentiates you versus the other 299 people in the space, right? If you're going out with the same message of, we help save you time and money, or whatever generic thing, you're going to have a really hard time standing out, because everyone's going to that buyer with that message, right? And so I think like nailing those two things down first is one of the biggest things I see startups really struggle with. And the third one I think gets into a little bit more kind of like, where are goals? And so I think it's a little bit goals and prioritizations, because early stage startups, it's a blessing and a curse. You can do everything, but you actually can't, right? So you have unlimited channels in terms of like, oh, Instagram could be a channel for us, maybe Facebook, maybe Google Ads, maybe we should build content, maybe we should do a podcast, maybe we should do this. And you have this limitless kind of end spectrum of like options, but the reality is you can only do a few things. And if you know what your goals are and what you're trying to achieve, it'll help you prioritize what you should actually be doing from a marketing standpoint, because you can't do everything, right? So then you pick your 5 things that you want to focus in on, or 3 things that you want to focus in on, of like, here are the things we're going to do, here's the results we're going to expect from it. And so I think those are the 3 big areas I see, especially early on, that startups struggle with.
Along the way, because I'm a new guy, an FNG, friggin' new guy, I've ran a business for 30 years, and the last thing I wanted to happen was me getting in the way of the growth of the organization, right? I didn't want to be the blocker or the stopper. So I actually hired, people in marketing. Didn't work. I hired revenue ops, these professional title holders, right? Didn't work. What advice would you give to someone who built a SaaS company that drives sales performance and to actually stand out? I know you identified, first of all, identify who's your avatar or your ideal customer. Second, what is the industry that you're going to really focus on? And third, what are your goals, right, in achieving that? I get it, but it's not as simple as that. It is as simple as that, but executing it in an ocean full of other fish, right? How do you, at your agency, help people stand out? Because like even CRM now, it's a race to the bottom. You can get it for free. You can get it for $1. So look at a guy like me. I built a sales performance platform. I spent $2 million. And that's not a lot of money when you compare what a lot of people spend. But it is a lot of money compared to just a small entrepreneur, right? And like I bootstrapped the whole thing. It can get painful, right, when you don't get results.
Yeah. So I think there's 2 things I'll help answer for you. One is how do you actually stand out? And I think there's a couple of ways to do it. I think one is you have to be honest about where the product is and where you are actually different than anyone else in the market. If you're not different than anyone else in the market, and it's like we have the same features, the same like CRM, for example, like are you doing anything that's truly unique in the CRM space, or are you just another player? And if you're just another player, you have all the same features as everyone else, and there's no differentiator. In fact, you're probably behind most people because they probably have more integrations and more everything else. Then you kind of have to figure out what's a unique angle we could take. And maybe it's going down a specific niche that we're going to sell to. We're the CRM for spas and salons, or we're the CRM, and bake your marketing around that opportunity and go after that specific opportunity versus trying to be this CRM like HubSpot that sells to everyone. Well, that's amazing, but HubSpot's been around for 20 years, and it's a marketing team of God knows how many people and billions of dollars. So you're not HubSpot, right? So I think you have to be honest about where you are, and then I think seeing where you can actually like focus in your efforts. Maybe there's an underserved market, right? Like a spa salon, or I'm just using that example, but maybe there's something else that maybe you should focus in on as an opportunity for your go-to-market motion. And then I think the other thing is, from a marketing standpoint, how do you stand out? When you look at what most companies are doing, a lot of them are running the same playbooks, right? They're all running paid search ads. They're all doing similar things on LinkedIn and, all these different things, writing super generic top of the funnel content. And so for me, I love to look across the landscape of whatever area you're playing in and think, how can we do this differently? It doesn't mean we need a different channel, but maybe we do a podcast that's, a no bullshit type of podcast that people would actually resonate with, right? Versus just 2 talking heads talking about the same topics over and over and over again, right? And so that might be the opportunity to say, we're going to do a podcast. It's content. We can use it across lots of different channels, but we're going to do it differently. And so I think figuring out a unique angle for everything you're doing, you could do this for direct mail. You could do this for the type of ads you're running. So rather than just having the standard ad that everyone has, our best performing ad when I led growth at G2 was actually pictures we just took of people at their desk looking at the camera. And that was the ad. And then because people stopped, because it just looked like a picture. And so people are really, really good at seeing ads and scrolling right past them. You don't even have to think about it. You just, next time you're on your phone, you'll realize how many ads you just scrolled past and you didn't even have to stop and think, is this an ad? You don't want to engage with that. But if you see a picture of someone, you probably are going to stop and be like, wait, who is this person? Right? And so that's the goal of the image of the ad, is to get someone to stop scrolling. So job number one done. Now we need really good, compelling copy to actually convert them, right? To get their interest and try to get them to convert. And so I think your approach could be in the same channels, but can be very different for how you go about doing things.
That's priceless advice. Yeah. And my methodology for growth, full disclosure, I started this because now the sales machine is unlike others. You know, we're a sales performance platform. So do we have a CRM? Yeah, but that's just the address book, right? We built a smart framework within it. So it's like 5 modules in one. You can plug a lot of different things into it, but it's having a sales CRM. It has a marketing campaign platform. It has the brain, which is patent pending, which is the accountability through achievement that connects all the dots within the system, retention module, and a training center. So we call it SMART, and it kind of sounds smart because it is. But ultimately, it's the value that people got to get out of it. And, you know, you talk about running ads, and if you're going to compete with HubSpot, the only way I could even take on a HubSpot is they're a 500-pound gorilla. And this is one of my favorites, is find a bigger freaking gorilla. Otherwise, not only is CRM a road to the bottom, running ads and competing with HubSpot or Salesforce or even Zoho is a road to nowhere, because you're like just putting money in the wind. And this is, I love your advice, Adam, especially because my methodology for going to market is first and foremost the podcast, right? Offline events. I like guerrilla marketing since I'm from the door-to-door world. And then I'm going to do an evergreen webinar and set up 3 options. Do it yourself, done with you, and done for you. So you don't even have to pay me for the software, but I'll implement it. And I'll do, you get on the webinar, and then the offer after that is this is how you set up a sales machine in your business that drives performance with rewards, recognition, competition, compensation. So people know what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And here, just turn on the sales machine. You can do it yourself, or I can do it with you. What are we going to do? I'll do a 3-day sales challenge with your company, and we will literally set up rewards, recognition, competition, compensation, and levels of development where people grow, and we'll automate it in the system for you. And if you want to take it to the next level, how about I just implement it into your company? And we could do that for like 20 grand. What do you think about that methodology?
I mean, I think it's definitely an approach, right? I think the hand-holding, right? Because a lot of the companies don't have the RevOps people or teams to actually implement software. And so I think it does a couple things. One, it makes it easy for me to get started. And then 2, from your end, it's probably making it success rate much higher, because everyone has been at companies where there's software that just is sitting there unused. Nobody even is touching it. We paid a bunch of money for it. The implementation was a disaster. The sales team doesn't actually use it, or the marketing team doesn't actually use it. And then you churn, as soon as the contract's up. And so I think your success rate, I'd be willing to guess, when you're actually doing the implementation with them, is probably a lot higher, right, than when they're just out there trying to figure it out themselves.
Yeah, and the people want to use it. So we built it in a way, not just because I'm a salesperson, but I love team, right? So like we built a dashboard that's all about you. Like you go on there and it's got what do you need to do for the day, but it's got your profile, it's got badges, it's got your level of development, it's got points, it's got a reward system, and then it's got a social feed to keep people within the company. So it creates an environment so they can, recognize each other, send emojis, smileys, congratulate them on ringing the bell or hitting their sales quota. It works for, customer service agents. It works for marketing executives, works for salespeople, because I didn't want to isolate. And a lot of my customers are like, yeah, it's great for our sales. And that's hot, right? What about our BDRs, business development reps, or sales development reps, or customer service? And I'm in the Philippines currently, right? Where it's call center land, business process outsourcing. So we know we cannot serve everyone or talk to everyone. Otherwise you end up speaking to no one, right? And that's marketing speak, your world. But what's the most dynamic methodology you've used to help one of your clients to get the greatest results?
You're talking about like an individual tactic or just an overall?
An overall strategy and the different tactics, whichever one made the biggest difference.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest differences is when marketing is tying their results in with sales. And so a big thing for me is marketing by itself is fine. There's lots of soft metrics in marketing that people like to poke fun of and all this sort of stuff. But I think if you can tie marketing to the end outcome of revenue, they're going to be way more invested in what happens on the sales side of the house, right? And so when I think about that, when we can connect basically sales and marketing initiatives together so that we're working together on campaigns, the performance is usually 10x of what it is versus marketing just saying, hey, we did this campaign, here's the leads, they're coming over. A way better use case is we're doing this campaign, we're going to run it by sales first, we're going to get the ideas from them, they're going to be excited about it. When we launch it, we're actually going to be following up and doing a sales outreach campaign on top of the ads we're running. We're also triggering LinkedIn outreach from our executive team to their executive team. And so it's an omni-channel type of campaign. So those perform 10 times better than just doing campaigns in isolation. And I think it's because people don't just buy off of one ad. They need lots of different touch points. And the reality is, like, marketing's not picking up the phone and calling anyone. And so you really need to be connected with what's happening on the sales side so that it feels like a seamless experience if you're the end user. Like you said, like, you can't talk to everyone, you talk to no one. Same thing if you try to market to everyone, right? So I think a big thing is when we can focus in to say, like, here's 1,000 target accounts. We're going to be everywhere for these 1,000 companies. So we're going to run LinkedIn ads at them. We're going to have BDR teams outreach into them. We're going to have our executives following up and connecting with them on LinkedIn. We're also going to be retargeting ads at the same audience. And you're doing all these things. Your spend doesn't need to be as crazy. It can be way more precise and targeted. So I think taking those types of approaches work really well. And there's lots of different ways you can do that. But I think in general, that's where I see the biggest results working with clients.
Right on. And so let's talk about that. So what do you think the most common mistakes B2B SaaS startups make?
Yeah, I think it's going too broad. I think it's going too broad and not going deep enough in any specific test or experiment to truly see the results. And so you'll talk to some companies that will say, like, on the marketing side, I'll sit down and say, okay, walk me through how you're being measured. And they'll say, well, we're being measured off of this and this and this. They don't really have a true star, like, here's what we're being measured off of. Here's what we need to deliver. We're responsible for 80% of the pipeline, and here's the dollar amount we need to deliver. It's usually like, oh, we have leads, we're targeting. And then, when you go into, okay, well, how are you achieving that? There's lots of different things, and it doesn't feel coordinated. It feels like, okay, why are we doing this? Oh, well, our CEO told us, they wanted to run this type of campaign. And I think one of the easiest ways CEOs are to blame for this, because they need to equip their teams to be able to say no to them. And that kind of goes back to where I started, which is the idea of goals. If I'm aligned with you on the goal and we both agree, hey, we need $1 million in pipeline this quarter, and then you come to me and say, like, hey, I think we should be running this campaign. That's fine. You're excited about the business. You're the CEO. You're the founder. Of course, you're going to have lots of ideas you're going to be throwing at me. But a lot of times marketing teams don't know how to handle that. And they're just like, okay, let's do that now. And they just go and do it. Well, if we're aligned on the goal, I can easily come back to you and say, hey, I love that idea. We can add it to the backlog because right now we're focused on these 4 big projects, which are driving the revenue or driving the pipeline. We need to hit the revenue goals. If you want to have a conversation about maybe reprioritizing, like we could do that, but here's where our focus is now. Like, let me know if that should change. You've just equipped the team to be in a much better spot. And so I think they get yo-yoed around a lot in marketing. And I think a lot of times marketing isn't really in the best position to say no because they're not tying their work into the end result of revenue.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I actually hired a marketing agency and a marketing manager, and my value proposition is we increase sales for companies, drive performance, and help you retain your customers. That's the value proposition of the sales machine. Literally, we can take an ordinary company and make them extraordinary by plugging and playing in the sales machine to create a sales machine for their business. But along the way, my attitude was, that's it, right? We help companies increase sales, drive performance, and retain their customers. The way we do that is with the sales machine, right? But then there was a lot of different messaging that was happening. And my attitude is, I'm just going to hire somebody and let them do it, right? I think, if it's, as long as it's the right guy and or gal, you put them in place, you give them the right tools, the right budget, and then you expect leads. So I'm like, well, I didn't get in your way. Is that a bad value proposition, Adam? I didn't get in your way. I gave you the budget. I gave you everything you told me you needed, and I got out of your way. So I'm not the blocker. So I'm in alignment, Adam. Give them a goal, what I want to create and who I want to help, and then get out of their way. What do you think of that value proposition?
I don't think there's anything wrong with value prop, but I think the devil's in the details, right? So how is it actually executed? What were the campaigns that were run? What were the channels? And I think hiring marketers is really hard because marketers are good at marketing themselves and they're good at speaking the lingo and using lots of buzzwords that sound good. But when you put them in the seat and it's time for hands on keyboard, drive results, like not everyone can do that, right? So I think it's a hard role to hire for, especially if you're a solo marketer kind of coming into a company owning growth. That's not everyone can do that.
I love that you pointed out Omni-Channel, where the sales team is involved with the marketers, is involved with, even the social media people. Like, I have a badass on my team. Her name is Vanessa DeLuna, and she was doing training yesterday with the sales as well as the marketing, aligning with, some principles, but Omni-Channel, meaning all these different social media. And it's one thing to run an ad. It's another thing, especially on social media. And when you do posts, there's a difference between engagement and acknowledgement. Because I looked at a lot of my stuff and I'm like, hey, you guys, we get a lot of likes and some comments, but the only thing that's happening is you're sending an emoji or a thanks. That's not engagement. That's acknowledgement. And that doesn't drive business and build relationships. If you want to build a relationship, you got to engage. So, hey, what did you like about the post? Hey, what else would you like to learn? Hey, here's a free resource if you're interested where you can use this to implement in your business. This is a totally different game. And a lot of people are looking at likes or followers. To me, social is not for me to be social. If I want to be social with you, dude, I'll say, let's go to dinner, right? That's social. Social media, for me, it's media. It's only for marketing. I'm not going to show you what I had for breakfast. And you really don't give a shit, do you, Adam?
not give a shit what you had for breakfast today. Sorry to share.
Yeah, well, today it's just coffee. Every day it's coffee.
There you go. Well, I think there's a couple of things there. On the marketing side, right, when you think of social media, a thing like a podcast or engaging with people and stuff like this, you're basically trying to put yourself in front of their audiences too and expand your reach. So when you have people like Richard Harris on or whoever, they have bigger audiences, you then are talking to someone and then hopefully they're promoting the podcast and they're putting you in front of their audiences. And so it's an easy way, not easy, but an easier way to get in front of people who already have the audiences you want to get in front of. And so I think in that way, the relationships or the social part matters, because people do that for people they like and people they engage with on social media. And so I think people confuse sometimes, I think, like what they need to share. You can still have a personality and a take and have unique opinions on things and show some of your own individual side without it being a breakfast picture or, you know, whatever it might be. So that there's ranges to it. But yeah, I think social media overall is like, people want to engage with real humans on LinkedIn or on Twitter or wherever.
That's great. That's great advice. So, you know, I stand corrected. However, for me, if it's just liking or saying thanks, you nailed it. Then it's not really social, right? I like it or you know, or thanks. When you engage, now it becomes a conversation. Now it can become social, right? Like you watch people go to dinner, right? I watch families go to dinner, not often, but when I go out, and or friends, and they go out to dinner. For me, it's supposed to be a social occasion, but then you look and they're all on their phones, right? So it's like, what a dichotomy, right? Where's the irony in this? They're all on social media and no one is socially even aware of what's going on until the food gets served. And then they're still eating on their phone. I think it's funny, but for me, to build a relationship, we have to communicate. We have to engage, right? Interact. So anyway, I'm looking forward to the results that the team creates. I love your idea of Omni-Channel. We're going to map that out. If you were to map that out, though, for other companies out there in a framework, right? What would be step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 or what would be the different pieces of the Omni-Channel marketing blueprint?
Yep. I think it varies. I think it depends a lot on who your buyer is and who you're going after and what channels are they active on. So I think a lot of times you might think of, oh, LinkedIn's our channel. And maybe the industry you're selling into, it's like, yeah, they have profiles on LinkedIn, but they're not really active. They're not engaging. A lot of LinkedIn is sales and marketing people or founders. And so you might say, well, actually, Facebook is a better channel for us to engage with people. And so trying to figure out where are the channels they are and then how are unique ways you can engage with them. So it could be a component with direct mail that you're running. It could be ad campaigns, but I think trying to just think through different channels and ways to get in front of that audience that'll stand out. So when I was at G2, we did a direct mail campaign where we took actual reviews of people's software. We had them printed out on like nice typography posters and we framed them up in like a 20 by 30 frame and sent it to their office. So if you were in the office, you got basically a framed G2 review showed up as a direct mail campaign. And then from there, you know, if you got something like that, you're like, oh, this is really cool. I'm going to hang it up on my wall. Now you have your G2 logo hanging on your wall. And when sales reaches out to you, it's hard to ignore a 20 by 30 glass framed picture showing up at your desk. You're probably going to open it. And when someone's like, hey, you got an email with the subject line, I sent you that, or I sent you that frame, you're probably going to at least respond to the person, even if it's a polite no. But thinking through, like, what's a way we can cut through the noise, even on a channel that feels maybe outdated, like direct mail, where we're not just sending a bottle of wine or some chocolates, we're doing something a little bit unique from the angle. So it really varies depending on who you're going after, because I think one of the things you have to analyze is what are they getting crushed with. Nobody's sending, or at the time, nobody was really doing tons of direct mail. You know, this is 4 years ago. And so for us, it's like CMOs are getting crushed on their inbox and they're getting crushed on calls. And so how do we approach this just differently to try to get in front of them? Or we were hosting dinners where we're inviting CMOs from target accounts in each city to a CMO dinner. We're not pitching them anything. We're just putting together 15 of the best CMOs in Boston, and we're getting them all together for a dinner. Like, we'd love for you to attend. Like, those kinds of things to just cut through the noise. So it's hard to give like a standard answer, but I think it starts with understanding where are they now and where are they getting crushed and where's their green space and opportunity.
Yeah, I love that. I've read a book called Giftology. Have you heard of that? My headspace is always about giving, right? I always want to give value first. I'm not, before I even make an ask, I I want to give value, give all the information away. Then they need me to implement. Happy to do so, or give them frameworks to do so. What are some other things you did at G2? Because you really helped blow up G2, right?
Yeah, it was blowing up, but yeah, I was a part of that team.
Yeah. So what are some other things that you did that helped it grow?
Yeah. There was lots of different campaigns we ran. We had different sales motions. So we had a growth kind of team that was focused on smaller SMBs. We had mid-market and we had enterprise. And so we had very different strategies for each one of them, because obviously selling to a company like IBM is completely different than selling to a Series A startup, as you might imagine. So the approach is really varied, but I think the biggest thing that we focused in on is selling to marketers at the end of the day is a fun thing, because marketers know all the tricks. They know all the different things that people are doing. And so, but they also appreciate good marketing. So that made it a fun opportunity to say, how do we do something really creative, like a direct mail campaign like that, or, ads where the pictures are the ones we're using, and just trying to do things that were a little bit different and outside of the box. But a big thing too, we partnered really closely with the BDR team, because they were handling all the inbound leads coming in. So we were tightly aligned with that group.
I mean, you've been in this space for a long time. You're a growth advisor currently at Tenzing. You're a growth advisor at Reposit. You're a partner at Hyper Growth Partners. Like, how are you juggling all these balls, dude?
Yes.
And you got 4 kids under 7. Come on.
Yes. I have a busy life for sure. I think that I really enjoy what I'm doing as a big part of it. Right. And so, I think that's the biggest thing, is I actually have fun with the marketing side and helping companies try to figure out, and they're fun problems to solve. So, yeah, I don't know. I managed to make the time. I also try to, I can get into like the way I manage my calendar and all that craziness. But I think a big thing is just really when I'm at work, I'm at work. And I also try to block off big chunks of time where I can actually do deep focus work, right? I think one of the things from being in-house for a long time, my day would get chopped up where I have a meeting from 9 to 10, and then I have from 10 to 10:45. By the time I go get a coffee and sit back down on my desk and check my emails, it's like I have 20 minutes to do some work. Am I getting anything really meaningful done in that time? And the answer is probably no. And I'm off to my next meeting, and then I was like my whole day, and then I ended up working nights to try to like actually do work. And I feel like tons of people can probably resonate with that. And for me, now that I'm doing my own thing, I'm allowed to just structure my day way differently. And so I really only do like my client calls and talk with everyone on one day of the week. And so it leaves me 4 days to just be really heads down doing deep focus work for what I need to be doing. So I'm a lot more productive because I can just manage my day a lot better.
Right on. Right on. I love that, right? A lot of this psycho, like meetings upon meetings upon meetings. When is people going to get some shit done? Like, seriously, right? I mean, like, you guys are having another meeting? Interesting. Did anybody get anything done this week? Because I have a team of about 40. What I love about one of my team members, Vanessa, she's doing working meetings. So they actually do the work and the meeting, how they're engaging, and they're doing it live, right? As far as making comments, asking questions, interacting. So it's like a working session instead of just a meeting. I love that. I just don't like people setting objectives every week and changing the objectives, right? So when did you take the leap, though? And what gave you the confidence to take the leap? I mean, now you're the founder of Growth Union. I mean, you've worked in Silicon Valley, and now you're in London, right?
Yep.
What made you take that leap?
Yeah. So I was lucky enough when I was at Help Scout, we scaled the team. We raised $15 million at the time, and we grew the marketing team from like 4 folks to 20 folks. And along the way there, nobody wants the VP of marketing and CMO jumping in and doing hands-on keyboard work. And what I realized is like, I actually like doing marketing work. I like it more than managing people. And at that point, I was just a people manager, a manager of managers. And that was less satisfying for me. And so I started advising a company on the side, helping them out, an early stage startup. They were a seed stage company trying to figure out all the stuff we've been talking about. I just really enjoyed doing that work. And so I ended up having a conversation with my CEO of like, hey, I think this is something I want to pursue full time and I'm going to leave. And so gave him kind of 6 months notice at the start of the year to say like, hey, by July, I'm going to be going. So we have tons of time to fill the role. If you fill it before, great. If not, I'll stay on till then. And so that gave me enough runway to really start ramping everything up in terms of bringing on more clients and doing that sort of thing. But I think so that gave me a lot of confidence. So it's not like I quit my job and then day one was like, oh shit, I got to go find a client. I already had like a full book by the time I actually left to go full time doing it. So there wasn't nearly as much stress around that. And then I think the other thing that helped me out a ton is just having a network of people that I know and talking about it with them. And so from that, I feel like most of my business from everything I've done is all referrals, word of mouth, where people will talk to me and then, you know, it's a friend or someone I've been on a podcast with or someone I've just had calls with to swap notes on. And when I announced that or figured out I was going to do this, I started just sharing it with everyone I could. And I started getting tons of introductions into other companies. And so, the power of kind of LinkedIn and the network has proven out to be incredibly valuable to me.
I feel your sincerity and you know, I think it's power, right? I think sincerity is power and authenticity is power and it's attractive and it makes people want to work with you. I mean, even during this podcast, Adam, you really given some golden nuggets for people to utilize, right? The Omni-Channel is priceless. Understanding step number one, who you're going to work with, what's the industry you're going to work with, what are your goals, and then, you know, build a strategy and tactics around that is priceless. I'm definitely going to rewatch this with my team and see how we can implement some of your strategies. What's the greatest thing you ever learned in marketing?
The greatest thing I ever learned, I would say the power of having really good copywriting. And so I was a big believer in the past of like, it's all about the tactics, it's all about the way you do it, and was never a strong believer necessarily in like the softer side of marketing. And I worked with an amazing copywriter and who did amazing work. And as a result of working with him on some of these campaigns, we would get landing pages that converted over 60% from these campaigns. And I was like, wow, this is like a game changer. When you know how to like convey your message in really compelling ways through like direct response copywriting. Because everyone talks about copywriting. I feel like on like LinkedIn, I'm like, oh, copywriting's so important. And I feel like more people talk about it than actually know how to do it. And when you get to work with someone who's really, really good at it, at their craft, you're like, wow, this is a game changer for campaigns. Just the way you can position things and figuring out how to get people to take action.
Yeah, that's priceless. 60% response from building landing pages. I want to know who that guy is. Is he your secret weapon? Or is it a girl? Let me correct myself.
It is not. His name is Eddie Schlaner. He runs the website Very Good Copy. He is amazing. He's got a free newsletter you can sign up for. And he's got
Very Good Copy.
Yep.
That's a priceless gift, Adam, that you just gave everybody, because it makes a difference, right? Especially when you know how to talk to the individual that you want to be your ideal customer, or they call it the ideal customer profile, or they call it the avatar. And I thought that was a movie, right? I'm like, Avatar? Isn't that a movie? I'm fine with admitting my own ignorance so that I can learn. What would be the top 3 books and I'm sure you read books, dude. What would be the top 3 books in marketing that you would recommend for startups?
Yeah. The number one book I think that was most helpful for me was Influence by what's the name, Robert Cialdini.
Yeah, Cialdini.
Yeah, and so I'm not sure if you've read that, but that to me, I think,
The Laws of Persuasion.
yes, and reciprocity, and like there's so many good, I think, lessons in there. I would say, I have all my books above my head, that's why I'm looking up. I would say, I just recently read, and I don't know if this is like my favorite book ever, and not that it's a bad book, but $1 Million Weekend by Noah Kagan. And it's basically like, how do you ship fast and how do you move fast? And he goes through like, how do you start up basically a startup and get your idea from concept to live product over the course of a weekend. And I think like the concepts in there are really powerful because you can sit and pontificate around what marketing campaign will work best or what, channel or whatever. But the reality is like the real power is in executing. And the faster you can do that is your big advantage, especially when you're talking about the 500-pound gorillas who have committees and lawyers that need to oversee. Like your one big advantage over all of them is the speed at which you can move and the ability to test. So those are two that probably stand out the most to me that I've read recently. I'm not a huge like business book reader, to be honest.
I love reading about marketing or like the 16-word sales letter or gap selling. But I want to make this more about you, and I'm grateful that you jumped on here, Adam. Really, really can help a lot of other businesses cut through the weeds and understand, there's a book out there that says, all marketers are liars or there's a lot of false prophets out there. So when you work with a company, are you primarily focused on their positioning in the marketing or in the market and doing marketing, or do you actually help them raise money and scale?
Yeah, I'm not really helping them raise money. I'm helping them scale, which helps them raise money. Right? So it feeds into that concept. But I would say like our main focus is helping companies with growth and scale. And so how do you go from 1 million to 3 million to 10 million to 20 million? Like how do you approach that? What does the team need to look like? What are the channels you should be focusing on and helping them execute and build against that?
Moving forward, what's next for you?
Yeah, so I did that solo advising consulting thing for about 1.5 years and then started Growth Union this past winter. So we launched in December. So really this year, my big focus is on scaling that up and continue to kind of bring on clients there. So it's been a lot of fun so far.
Right on. And are you managing a team again?
It's a little bit different how we're structured because one of the differentiators is I don't really believe one of the big problems we have with agencies in the marketing world is you get sold by the founder or a marketing leader there. And the reality is like the person that was working on your account is someone with 2 years of experience who's a junior account manager. And that's not a knock against them, right? Because everyone needs to start somewhere. But if you're betting your SaaS business, I think you're much better off focusing on people who have been in the seat before, who have done it. And so we actually don't have full-time employees. We are basically an agency that's built a little bit different in terms of we're almost like a collective of really, really talented growth and marketing people. And so when you work with us, you get assigned a growth lead who's been in the seat before, they've scaled a company, they've seen the movie before, and they help you build up the growth strategy. And then we have all these amazing people who help on the execution side. So more project management is what I'm trying to figure out, all the operational stuff, but so not managing people directly though.
Right on. More focused on finding solutions and then plugging in who needs to be working on what and when. This might be a crazy question, but typically what kind of a budget would someone need, right, as a startup? And I know there's a lot of variables in there, but typically what would you say a budget a startup would need to actually work with your marketing agency?
Yeah, so we just charge a flat rate. It's $15K a month. And what we do is we operate up against 3 different initiatives. So one of the big things with agencies is they're point solutions in most cases, right? There's a PPC agency, there's a content agency, there's a backlink agency, but they're all focused in on one singular thing. And I think early on, especially in startups, growth, like we talked about, is omni-channel. And so one of the things that I think gets lost with those agencies is they're just focused in on their one thing. And so if you're a PPC agency, all your recommendations for growth are going to be spend more money on ads. It's also how you make money. So it's counterintuitive thing where it's like, I'm making 15% on your ad spend. So I'm never going to tell you to stop spending money or cut back on spend. All of my recommendations will be spend more, right?
Yeah, and it's not working. So, yeah, you know why it's not working? Because you're not spending enough money on ads.
Yes. Shocking. So the big thing for us is we build out more of a holistic overall growth strategy, and then we'll operate or execute up against 3 initiatives, which is why our model is very flexible, because some things we will like say, we're going to test this for a month and then or 2 weeks, and then we're going to end up scrapping it because it's not working, and we're going to bring someone else in to help out with high intent content instead of LinkedIn ads or Facebook ads or whatever it might be. So it's really meant to be a broader growth solution for companies.
And you say it's a 3-part system, right? You want to repeat that? What's the 3-part system? Is it all focused around running ads?
No, it could be anything. So for example, we'll execute up to 3 initiatives. So our growth strategy might say like, hey, here's the 20 things. If we were out of growth, here's how we would scale over the course of a year. And then we'll say like, but based off your goals, like we talked about before, to hit them, like here are the biggest priorities we would focus in on first. And it could be LinkedIn ads. We're running automated outbound campaigns for one company. We're creating content for another. We have a social strategy for another. And one company, we're actually just keeping one lane open, and we're testing a new experiment every 2 weeks. So we're doing direct mail, we're doing a CMO dinner, we're doing some social automation. We're basically like experimenting like crazy for them to try to figure out some of the things that work. So we're just an extension almost of the marketing team, and we can plug in where we kind of see fit or see the biggest opportunity.
So there you have it, folks. There's no one size fits all. You got to test, and measure, and, omni-channel it. Ladies and gentlemen, Adam Goyette, you can find him on LinkedIn. He is the founder of Growth Union. If they wanted to find you or contact your company to work with you, Adam, where else would they go?
Yeah, if you go to growthunion.co, you can book a call directly on there, and we can have a conversation. So, but yeah, other than that, I'm on LinkedIn. That's the best spot to find me.
Brilliant. Marketing Golden Nuggets by Adam Goyette. Thanks for joining the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, John. I enjoyed it.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to send a review about what you liked on this podcast or share it with somebody who would need it to definitely improve their business, building and scaling sales teams, do me a favor, like, share. It means a lot to me so that we can help others grow and live in abundance. That's a wrap, folks. Thanks for joining me today. And if you got value from this episode, do me a favor, like, subscribe, and refer a friend. And if you want even more value, go to thesalesmachine.com, click on resources, and there's tons of resources there to increase profits and drive performance in your business. Right on, come on.